Oh God. Okay. Well, let's just let's try. Let's just try. Oh, it was just doing weird things.
All right. What do you got there? Bit of tea.
Yeah, I got a tea. I've been a little bit under the weather this week.
What's your symptoms? You don't have the disease, do you?
I don't. I just had a cold. I had congested nose, which was, unpleasant but fairly standard winter fare. And
I believe that was one of the symptoms. Though.
Oh, yes. I don't have a fever. I don't have any chesty difficulty breathings or anything like that. So,
Alright.
And I got better in 2 days. That probably also is a good sign that it's not COVID. Also, there's no COVID in Christchurch.
I heard that there's a little creeping back in, though, isn't there?
We don't have any community transmission. We have had cases, but they're all just people who've come home from the borders and who are in isolation. So,
Bloody backpackers.
yeah, well, traveling around the world and picking up diseases never used to be a problem till it was so spreadable.
Yeah, well, it's fucked over here, man. Victoria is back into stage 3.
Yeah.
Which has been unbelievable.
Which is just total weakling version lockdown. I mean, man up and try a real lockdown, then come crawling back to me. Oh, it's so hard. I can only get takeaway. Oh, it's so hard. I can still go to work and the malls are open. Oh, poor me. It's so hard to be in Melbourne.
The fuck is this?
Oh.
How about a little sympathy, piece of shit?
I'm so sorry.
The fuck is that?
Get takeaway.
Oh my god. You're a fucking monster.
Some of us really suffered through lockdown, you know.
Well, okay, so what? You had a harder lockdown, did you?
Look, I'm not saying it's competition. I'm just saying that objectively.
Yeah, I think you're
just saying
objective.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that you're, weaker than we are, but I'm just saying that we survived a harder thing, and did it better. So.
Yeah. Okay. So you are saying that.
You've chosen to interpret the tone of my voice that way, maybe, but the words that I was saying was maybe not implying that.
I'll remember that, Nick. Next time there's a fucking earthquake, okay?
No, sincerely, 6 weeks, man, that's rough.
Yeah, well, it's been funny because they locked down a few suburbs, hotspot suburbs in Victoria, and the house that we're living in, the suburb that we were living in, was one of those suburbs.
Yeah.
So we felt it was just like weird thing, memes going around about people wanting to shun the suburb that we live in. You felt like the lepers.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
It was weird. And there was like a lot of our friends live in the suburb next door. Some of them, there's like just a road dividing suburbs, so you can basically look at another suburb that's not in lockdown, and and it's kind of arbitrary.
I mean, aren't all suburbs divided by roads?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying,
the main road continues, and then there's like an intersection, and then beyond that you're free, and on this side of it you're in lockdown. Is that what you're saying?
not even that. Just like on streets, in some of the streets, the house directly opposite you.
Right.
Might not be in
right,
lockdown.
So split sort of like either side of a street.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're feeling like, and a couple of our friends they're still having parties and stuff, and we're like, God. And then the state locked basically the whole metropolitan of Melbourne down.
Yeah.
So yeah, you feel like we're the lepers of the lepers though now, because we're in a hotspot. So
yeah. So why do you know what the case was in your suburb? Why is your suburb pinged? Was there a school or something?
The postcode. Sorry, it's the postcode that's locked
Yeah.
down. The postcode is so big, and we looked it up. There's 3 active cases. I mean, they could be anywhere, but they locked down the whole postcode, which is, I get it, but it just seems, I don't know. It just, part of you is just like, like what? It's kind of, it's not unfair, but it almost feels
it's disheartening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not it was the thing that they had to do, right? Like, it was spiking again.
Absolutely,
We have to jump back in. It just sucks, as you say, that like there was this almost like half step in between, right? Like if it went from, okay, things are getting out of control in Melbourne to all of Melbourne is now locked down, I think everyone would be like, okay, I mean, that kind of makes sense. But doing this weird one where it's like, there's 2 public housing towers and also, 4031 or whatever your postcode is they're locked down. Like this half step where it's like, some people are okay, but other people aren't. That's the weird thing, right? If everyone had just been told it's back on, sorry, then at least you wouldn't feel like there was this inequality or injustice based on where you're living.
Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, the inequality debate is an interesting one because, look, the government doesn't want to lock down, so they were wanting to try and, I mean, yeah, arguably they should have, and they should have done it earlier, and they have done it now. But these businesses, apparently 15% of businesses are going to go under. They're not going to survive this second lockdown.
Yeah.
15%.
Yeah. That's pretty huge.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is rough, but at the same time, if they didn't lock down, and I know it's cold comfort to the business owners, right? But if they didn't lock down and the pandemic worsened, then you're still going to run out. Like those businesses are still in trouble. Ultimately, the lockdown itself is not what's caused these businesses the hardship. It's the fact that there was a virus, which is not in anyone's control, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the thing that's ultimately to blame here is the virus, not the policy making, right? Unless you want to take the opinion that, Australia should have locked the borders earlier and stopped it ever getting in or something like that.
Well, there's a bit of a scandal in Victoria specifically because the Vic government employed private contractors as security to basically secure these quarantine hotels, and they subcontracted it out to guards that basically had no training. Some of which had, I don't know if you heard about this, some of them had sex. Some of the security guards had sex.
I did hear about that.
Which is
with an infected patient. Crazy.
I don't know if they were infected, but they had sex with people in quarantine.
I think they were.
It might be, yeah. Which is both hilarious and very, very distressing.
I mean, they must have been pretty hot.
They must have been smoking.
Must have been smoking hot.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, hit that. Well done.
Dude, 100% that forbidden fruit.
That tastes so sweet. When when you know that you're going to get a contagion as a result. Yeah.
It's it's Adam and Eve.
It's the Adam and Eve. Yeah, that snake needed a talking to.
It's a tale as old as time, Nick.
A tale as old as time.
What is that from?
Beauty and the Beast.
I really need to rewatch that. I haven't been watching enough Disney lately.
I think that's fine. Did you watch Hamilton?
No. So what is that? I saw you tweeting about that. By the way, I'm all over your Twitter like a wet rag.
Okay.
I'm looking at everything. Weird analogy. Looking at everything you're liking and stuff. I'm a huge Twitter fan. That's going to be my recommendation engine. Spoiler.
Whoa.
Twitter.
You're the only person. You come to Twitter so late. Like you got one, you walked away from it for like 7 years and came back, and you're still in a zone where you think it's good. In that immediate, interceding 7 years, the entire world has decided that Twitter is a trash fire, and you're walking into this party.
I'm like a man.
Hey guys,
like
this
a guy
is pretty cool, eh?
I'm like a guy from the 80s that's been brought into it, brought back to life, and just Twitter is great.
Wow. You can just say anything you want.
Yeah. But Twitter is good for celebs.
It's good for following
because I've got no
interesting
friends
people.
on there.
Yeah.
But anyway, Hamilton. So what is that? Is that just is that like what Wallace did with those fucking opera things, or they've actually made a real movie out of it?
No, yeah, it's a live capture. So they recorded the original cast back in 2016 when they were still on Broadway. They recorded a couple of shows, and then they also did one with no audience where the cameras could get on stage and get some close-ups and do some, a good? Up-close coverage. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had sort of been waiting to see it. I hadn't listened to the soundtrack before this point, but we got together and watched it with a couple of friends and a projector, and yeah, it was good.
So can you explain the hype to me? Because I'm not a huge fan of musicals, but I mean I saw Book of Mormon, which is the gold standard as far as hype goes for musicals. But Hamilton is the other one now.
Yeah.
But Book of Mormon has a clear, it's like satirical, edgy South Park guys.
Yeah.
What's the Hamilton draw?
The Hamilton draws a few different things. And I mean, I think it would play differently if you were American watching it as well, because the story of the founding fathers is probably much more familiar to, someone over there than it is to a foreigner. But you have a general idea, right?
Yeah.
But basically, it is a retelling of the story of Alexander Hamilton, and it's done through the lens of his writing, and it's interpreted as like rap, sort of freestyling rap, and a combination with musical sort of numbers, right? So the entire show is musical. There's not a single scene which is spoken word. It's all music. And they're telling the story of this guy's life up to the revolution, which saw them separate from England, and then the other side of it as they started to found the sort of institutions of the new nation, like the federal bank and that sort of thing. But it's just incredibly cleverly written. It's got an amazing lyrical sense. There's some really clever wordplay, and Lin-Manuel Miranda basically wrote this show, I think, over like 7 years. So it was a real sort of passion project. And the other thing which is sort of interesting about it is that the entire cast, or the majority of the cast, are people of color. So it reframes all of the founding fathers as black, which adds this entire other kind of level of interest in it. And when the way that you interpret things and see it is completely fresh, because it's not white people. So yeah,
I noticed that he didn't make his character black.
Well, he's Puerto Rican. He's a person of color, even if he's not black.
Are Puerto Ricans people of color?
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, I, as someone who doesn't have a huge musical history in terms of the shows that I've seen, I really enjoyed it, and I thought the historical stuff was good, and I thought the storytelling was really good. And getting to see like the original cast perform it before it turns up in Melbourne with an Australian cast or something like that was really cool.
All right. Can you imagine writing a musical? Like where do you start with that? Like,
yeah,
it'd be fucking tough.
I mean, I think he had a collaborator, in the sense that you kind of need a composer, someone who knows how to write musical songs as well as the lyrical stuff. Like, he's musical, obviously. He's a genius, really, because he wrote this entire thing just off the bean. Like, it's crazy impressive. But then I think there's a strong collaborative element where there's someone who actually knows how to like score it for an orchestra, or what to put underneath it, and how to make this, like a hip hop thing, and how to make that one more of like a ballad, and how to make that one, like a rap battle. I don't think
task.
Yeah, it would be crazy.
Yeah.
And it has its own genre as well, right? Musical is its own genre.
Do you like musicals?
I have enjoyed some musicals, but I just don't lean to go and see theatre very often. Do you know what I mean? I never have that. I don't have that itch.
I always feel like I'm pretending to like it.
I mean, I've definitely pure plays, pure drama. I don't know that I've necessarily ever properly enjoyed it. It always feels a little bit
actory. I hate like.
It's performative,
I hate
right?
I hate seeing like real like theater actors imagine.
It's a style. It's not very naturalistic. I think that's what. That's where the edge is for me. Where
Definitely.
like cinema or television feels more real. There's a bit more of a suspension of disbelief you need to do.
Yeah, I saw Solaris last year, which had
What? As a play?
Yeah, as a play, it had Hugo Weaving in it.
Oh shit!
He just pre-recorded his bits. He was like he was on
narrator
the video
or
thing.
something.
He was like heavy. He was like a main character,
Yeah.
but he was in the he was in like a spaceship thing. I don't know, whatever. And I love that. I love the movies, the George Clooney remake and the old one. But the theater one, just fucking shut up.
It's hard to do
It's
sci-fi in a stage setting, right?
But that's the part that I was excited about seeing.
Yeah.
Seeing sci-fi done on the theater, but it just, I think, it just ruined all the parts that I loved with that conversion.
Yeah. I've seen a few music. I saw Matilda. I saw Book of Mormon. I've seen a few, and when I actually end up seeing them, like getting out there, I do quite enjoy it. But I don't think I'm the kind of person who would go to every show that came. You know, I think I'd have to sort of know a little bit in advance that I was probably going to like it, or that I already had an interest in it.
Yeah, I saw Lion King on Broadway and fell asleep. I missed it.
Wow, you fell asleep through the entire show. That would have been like $200.
$200. It was on a school music tour, and this is kind of funny. All I wanted was to get spaghetti and meatballs from a New York diner. That was like my whole thing. Like, if I can leave America having gotten spaghetti and meatballs from a New York diner, I'll leave happy. And so we went out specifically for me because I made such a fuss. And I got this massive plate of spaghetti and meatballs, and then we were going out to see Lion King on Broadway. And I had just bought all these new shirts, and the new white shirts, and the plate of spaghetti and meatballs was so big that they gave it back to me in like a thing, in like a Tupperware container.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm just going to eat this later. And I put it in my jacket pocket, like inside my jacket.
Okay.
When we went to see Lion King, and I fell asleep. And I woke up having missed the entire Lion King and drenched in marinara sauce. With a new shirt.
That is a
was my first
quintessential
rock bottom.
Michael story.
That was my first rock bottom.
First of many. Welcome to Deep Forward, everybody. So nice to have you with us. This is the Thinky Talky podcast, or as my boyfriend called it, my favorite way for two white men to tell me how to live my life and how to think. Sitting through the internet with me, Michael. Say hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
And I'm Nick. Hey, thanks for being here. Sorry if I sound a little bit sniffly this week. I was unwell.
You were doing cocaine all weekend.
Rubbing that rock salt up the nose.
Rock salt?
Yeah. That's what we call it in the biz. You have a mic stand now.
I got a boom arm.
Yeah. How you
Which
feeling
I bought
about
when
it?
I was drunk. I've been buying heaps of shit when I'm drunk.
Hey, it was good that you got it before lockdown,
Why?
because now you have it.
Yeah, but why? Do you think the post stops?
Well, did for us. I don't know. Maybe it was just easier for you over there.
Stopped. The post
Must be easy over there.
The post
Gosh.
stopped for you.
Interesting. Yeah. No, some of us sort of suffered and, had quite a difficult time. But yeah, no, good for you. I am happy for you.
Just shut up for a second. Did the post stop for you or not? It didn't stop.
Not
for you,
letters. Not letters.
Not letters.
You can still get letters.
Okay, well, yeah, I bought this. I also bought, which is the strangest thing. I'll just show you here. For 2 a.m. last night, I had a bottle of wine. Mm-hmm. A green accountant's hat.
Oh.
Like a green visor.
Yeah, yeah.
I have no idea why I did that.
Was alcohol involved last night as well?
Yeah, I was playing a little cards.
Playing a little cards.
Had a bit of wine, but yeah. Been drinking a lot lately. I had every intention of doing dry July.
Yeah.
This year.
Not going to happen.
I have drank. It's been like monsoon July.
Yeah. You've gone hard the other direction.
I've gone harder because it was like just basically looking for excuses.
Yeah.
But when we went into lockdown, when they announced that the whole state was in lockdown, it was like, fuck it, we should get a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And then the wheels are off.
Yeah. I mean, you should have got lots of wine, really.
Because we went into lockdown twice.
Well, yeah, but also as like a stock so that you can go and you can get that.
Well, we can just, I don't, maybe you're making me feel bad here, but you can go and get wine, Nick. We can get wine. There's a booze shop right across the road.
Our liquor shops were closed during lockdown. But yeah, I guess, if you're able to get it, that would be lovely. That'd be great. I don't know where this bit came from. Sorry, I'm not trying to make you actively bag.
I mean, I think we need to do more bits. We used to do lots of bits. We used to go do silly voices. Then we started talking about bloody politics every episode.
Yeah, it's been a weird year. I think in a normal year, maybe we would have been a bit sillier this year. But I think you're right. This episode's about nothing. So
yeah,
this is a space for it.
No, I was thinking today we could do how many times do we record? We record twice a month, basically, right?
Yeah, 2 or 3 times a month. Yeah,
I think every fourth one could be, just a grab bag one where we have no topic and we just talk. I mean, we've been friends for 12 years. Like, have we ever had an awkward silence? We're not going to run out of things to say.
I think we've probably had some awkward silences, but they might have been deliberate.
That doesn't count. Or when I've farted or something.
Yeah, no, I no, that when you fart, I don't leave an awkward silence. I just do a golf clap.
Yeah, that's our thing.
That's the thing. Every time you let one rip.
So what about? Let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
How do you think? Do you think this year, given how catastrophically bad it has been in so many ways, do you think it's gonna be remembered in history? Don't you reckon?
Oh, absolutely.
2020 is going to be yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be such a turning point for so many things. Environmentally, medically, politically, democratically, just about any...
every field,
right? Yeah.
Universities are changing. Because that's the other thing. We've learnt now with... A lot of things are going to change. They're saying that even after we go back completely to normal, the airplane industry is still going to struggle to recover because now people have figured out with technology that they can have meetings at a pretty good level with technology.
Yeah.
And the same for universities. So we're not going to go back once it's actually all over. We're not necessarily going to go back to how we used to be at all.
Yeah. And I think the airlines as well, they will have to get by, shrink some of their operating expenses, right? Which means putting some planes away, standing down some staff. So then when it does start up again, they're not going to be able to get everywhere that they used to. And so people who might be like, oh, I want to get to, Tonga, or I want to get to, I don't know, Africa or something. Well, there'll be fewer places traveling that kind of distance because they will have shut down some of those least profitable legs, right?
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a little bit of a spiral where okay, people weren't using it for a while. We had to shut down some flights. Now people can go flying again, but there aren't the flights that they wanted to. So, maybe we don't go to that place, or maybe we'll look around in the country, or maybe I don't want to be overseas in case the virus comes back, I think you will. You're totally right. I think you'll see a big slump in travel for quite a while.
Yeah, and I can't even remember the last time in history that something this impactful has happened to the entire world. It's maybe the war.
Like a single event, yeah.
Yeah, maybe the world war, maybe 9/11, but 9/11 doesn't even come close. 9/11 is just heightened security and, it's kind of terrorism in people's... But, remember terrorism?
Yeah.
Dude. It's a bad time for a few industries. Robbing's way down. Terrorism's
so
down.
hard to
People
find an
aren't,
empty house.
Everyone's affected, including terrorists.
That's the thing. Thankfully we've got JobKeeper to keep those, burglars still on the books. Just when they're, really struggling to turn over those Like, what are you meant to do with a VCR these days? Cash converters is shut.
Yeah.
What are you meant to do? They're hard. They're hard hit.
Yeah. Everyone's hurting. Yeah.
What's your work situation going to be like?
Mine basically remains the same. So, still just working from home, doing the radio once a week, 1 day a week, and then doing. I don't know if I don't know if I should say that where I work.
That's fine.
I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I'm always thinking of. I'm always part of me. Part of my brain's always thinking of Stalky.
Yeah. Interesting, eh? I was just talking about that with KC the other day.
And he was like, "Oh, I would have expected Michael's brother to be stalked."
You know, the truth is...
Don't tell me he fucking
the
said
truth
that.
is he fucking said it. He's
You're
like, oh, maybe Michael is the hotter brother.
Fuck.
That was a
you
compliment.
and your-
That was a compliment. He was like, oh, maybe Michael is the hotter brother. Like, he's the one that...
I love that. I love
Ben
that.
didn't have a stalker.
You know what's funny? Like, people actually did kind of, and it was men, did actually say things like that to me when that was happening.
Yeah.
You know, it was that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you think you're a fucking, you know.
Was she
all
hot?
that. There was so much of that. Yeah, that was weird. That's like over a year ago now.
Yeah, but longer than that. Wasn't it 2018?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess maybe when it got finalized
Yeah.
was last year. But yeah, weird to think about. What
Yeah.
are we talking about? This is a real grab bag.
Oh, yeah, we were just asking about your job.
Work sitch. Yeah, I'm basically just doing the same thing as I was before. So yeah. It's not too bad. But
Is that
the businesses
like 3 days a week or
themselves,
something?
4
Okay.
essentially. They're basically a job keeper is. We're basically working up to job keeper, which is $750. So they take our rate of pay before the lockdown, and that's basically what they want you to aim at. But it's more. That's not kind of the feeling. That's like a loose guideline. But the feeling is like, look, the owners of the venue that I work at own 4 around Melbourne, so. I'm actually kind of working for all the venues at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's just like more of a all hands on deck kind of thing, just trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
Or get the businesses back up to some sort of profitable.
But that'll all be delayed now that you're back in lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't be open.
No, one of the venues is doing takeaway.
Okay.
So,
can you do takeaway liquor?
yes,
That's cool.
and they do that. They do that. Yeah, yeah. But it's they do burgers as well.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, yeah. But I've actually quite enjoyed. I feel bad about saying that to some degree, but I've actually really enjoyed this lockdown period. You know. Just
As in the pandemic period or the last lockdown?
I mean, from when we locked down the first time to now.
Yeah. This change of pace.
The change of pace is just so much more my speed, you know, which is, and I do feel bad about saying that. And there is definitely a part of me that would like to see my friends a bit more, I guess. But I also am just, I mean, would I, to be like, if you ask me honestly, would I trade it in? I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the amount of time that I feel like we've gotten. Granted, I'm just saying for my own personal experience.
Yeah,
I know
you're talking
other
specifically
people-
for your situation. Yeah.
I just had more time to, you know, get into a regular sleeping pattern. I've been doing heaps of music. I've been, you know, just listening to podcasts and thinking and walking, and you know, haven't been exercising that much. But that's one of my goals for this lockdown, is to properly stick to it. I got that Nike training app that you suggested. So I've been doing that for the last week. Which is a great app, by the way.
It's a really good app.
Can't believe it's free.
It's totally free. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. How have you've been busy the whole time? Oh yeah, tell me about your fucking work thing. Tell me about good grief.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll tackle the first part of your question, which you blew past, which was how am I? I'm doing pretty well, and New Zealand is doing very well. We do have, I think, 20 cases or so at the moment, but they're all in isolation, so life is basically back to normal. We're all level 1, no masks, no queues at the shopping centre.
Nice.
Cinemas are open. All these.
Have you seen a movie?
I haven't seen a movie. The problem is there isn't really things that they're showing. So they're doing a lot of like older films. They're doing stuff that was sort of in cinemas just before lockdown. Like you can go and see The Invisible Man or Sonic or that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But none of that's really
Tenet's
enough.
coming out soon, I think.
Well, I'm not so sure.
No?
I just feel like the studio will be like, why are we fucking releasing this thing when no one is going to be able to see it? I
Apparently
think
Nolan is insisting.
Yeah, I know, but like, what a fucking dick move.
Why?
Because
they're just going to lose heaps of money.
Well, exactly that. And also, you're asking your audience to go risk their lives to see it, For most of the world, it's not safe to go out into cinemas again. It's not going to actually...
Why can't they release it country by country? I mean, they can't.
Because it'll get pirated.
I guess it's pirating, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I feel like he's being completely obnoxious with that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just very self-serving. I think he's in a privileged enough position where he feels like, I just want it out there. But the implications for, the cinema workers, for the public that'll go out and sit next to people who are sick without knowing it and contract the virus, it's not the right fucking time, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know you had a movie that you want people to see, but it's like,
I guess.
Good luck to you if you want to.
Did you see Tom Hanks with his movie Greyhound?
Yeah.
He's expressed that he's pretty devastated about not having had to release that on Apple, I think, has bought that now.
Yeah, they've picked up the distribution.
Looking forward to that movie. Sorry, this is a tangent.
I don't know. I'm not a huge submarine movie kind of guy.
Oh, but you got to be a Tom Hanks guy.
Yeah, I like Tom Hanks, but I wouldn't have seen much of his movies, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, like movies like Sully and Castaway. I think Castaway, there's a good case to be made that Castaway is the most universally, as far as universal appeal, I reckon Castaway is the best movie ever.
That's such a call. That's no.
I'm saying it, dude.
You think Castaway is the most universally appealing movie?
Yeah. And good.
What about like Jurassic Park?
No.
Jurassic Park is more universally appealing than Castaway. I'm sorry.
Disagree.
What about Up? Toy Story 3.
Nah, it can't be animated.
Why not?
I don't know why.
Universally appealing, but with an asterisk.
Yeah.
This is the most universally appealing Tom Hanks film. No, that's still Toy Story.
Yeah, I guess. All right, well, whatever. I love Castaway.
I think that's fine. You're allowed to like Castaway.
Anyway, tell me more about how you're happy with your life and stuff.
Yeah, no. Well, that was just to say that New Zealand life is normal. So I have been working on the video game on Sherlock, which is coming along nicely.
Yeah, cool.
That's been quite busy. I made a little bit of a tactical error because with the animated series that I write on and with Sherlock, I'd pre-warned them that I was going to have to duck off and do good grief halfway through this year. And eventually when the shoot dates were set, I said, okay, I'm not going to be able to do things sort of into July. So that'll be when I have to disappear. And I hadn't really foreseen, though I should have, that both of those projects, which were kindly hitting pause for me, would try and get as much out of me in the lead up to that 1st of July kind of date. So I suddenly was hit with this like, oh, can we get this before you start, and this before you go, and this before you go, and this before, and all of a sudden, because Good Grief was also still requiring attention, I had 3, like a real big surge of work, which was good, but quite draining, which is, I think, what wore me down a little bit to the point where I picked up this cold.
I reckon that would be tough to do. Like if you don't have an external schedule and you're basically you've got heaps of work to do, but you don't have an external. Do you find that hard?
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard in a couple of ways. It's hard because like I like these projects and I like the variety of them, so I enjoy working on it. It's also hard because I'm going to be paid for it. Like if I defer doing an animated script, that means I don't get paid for that month or whatever. Like I get paid per script or per part of work. So in some ways, there's incentive to finish that off and get the invoice in so that I can have living money. So yeah, it thankfully for the most part, I'm able to kind of manage my days pretty well. But then when you just have a surge like that, where it was a little bit out of left field and you need to get this stuff done on a deadline, then you end up doing days where you're working till 9:30 at night or something, which is never much fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that's eased off a little bit now. And yeah, to get to your original question, Good Grief, our TV show or streaming series, is less than 2 weeks away from filming now. So we are really properly in the end game of like pre-production now. So we've been casting, we're honing down on the final cast members, we've been watching audition tapes and that sort of stuff and recalls for them to do new scenes and trying to work out the sort of jigsaw puzzle of, we got a person in this role who's got high energy, so we want to counterbalance that with someone who's a little bit more laid back in this role, and this ethnicity is represented and this ethnicity, and doing the jiggle of schedules where it's like, okay, we do want this person, but they can only do 4 days of our shoot window, which might not be enough. So then we look at a person who can give us, all of the shoot window, the 13 days that we'd be shooting for.
What do you mean by ethnicity represented? Do you mean like in the script, or do you mean represented accurately?
Neither. I mean that in our scripts we have not prescribed what ethnicity the characters are. So we haven't opened auditions to allow, any person to apply for the role, right? And so then, when we are casting the show, we don't want it to be 6 white people, is what I'm saying. So in having representation in those characters to make sure that it's not monolithic or monocultural. So yeah, it's just an interesting sort of jigsaw puzzle, like I'm saying, where you're balancing all these different factors. Like, this was a really good performance, but they can't do all the days that we need. So then we might get this person in, but that person's energy is quite similar to the other person. So does that mean we swap out that character? Otherwise they'll feel too similar, or choose a different actor for the other role, but then that person can't do the number of days. And also, that's 3 white people then. So maybe we don't want that for the main cast. And yeah, it's just like a really interesting kind of web of like a matrix.
By this. Is someone doing recording behind the scenes and shit? I'd love to see this.
Not in this process. I think we'll have a photographer on set, but not this side of it. No.
That was always like the most interesting things to me. Like seeing, like, even just like wondering what, like, if you think about like a late night show.
Yeah.
I feel like seeing what happens behind the scenes would be more interesting than the late night show. I'm not saying that it's going to behind the scenes is going to be more interesting than the show that you're writing, but I find that really interesting.
Well, that was the appeal of 30 Rock, right? Like, that show was about like the mayhem, obviously scripted and heightened, but like there has been clearly interest in that, in the process of making the thing, for as long as there's been like director's commentaries and behind the scenes featurettes and all that kind of stuff. People know that that's appealing, right?
Yeah.
The other thing, so like casting's one angle of the picture, like finalizing the scripts. I think I said maybe on the last podcast that we'd like spoken to a funeral director who gave us like insight into the real world process. But then it's things like props, like getting messages from the props department being like, does this look like an embalming machine? Can you ask your funeral director what embalming machines they use? And so I go off and I flick an email to them and say, hey, do you use this model of embalming machine? What does it look like? And he goes to his, I don't know, mortuary and takes a photo of their actual embalming machine and flicks it back to us, so the props department can find something that looks close enough to
You've got
real.
your own funeral guy.
Yeah, he's cool.
That's cool.
Gary.
What's his name?
Gary. Oh, he's the best.
Gary
Honestly,
sounds cool.
talking about the people behind the scenes, I would watch a documentary legitimately about like Gary, because he was fascinating.
Tell me more about Gary.
We did a 90-minute Skype call where we were just asking all of this like nitty-gritty stuff, like, do you take it home with you? Do you have to be like emotionally separate, or do you feel sad at funerals still? Does weird stuff happen? Does what's everything from like, what do you call the bodies, right? Like internally, what's the actual lingo for a dead person? And it's the deceased, or Mr. Jennings, or
Is that what it actually is?
Yeah, that's the actual answer. Yeah,
Okay.
They'll call him the deceased, or they'll just call him by their name.
Or Mr. Jennings.
Mr. Jennings. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
For anyone.
Yeah, we need that mum up for the 2:30 funeral. So if you could grab the Mr. Jennings and just take her up.
the Mr. Jennings.
Or like, what do you call, the people that come in and want your services, want you to do a funeral for them? Are they clients? Are they customers? No, they're the family of the deceased, or the client families, if you're talking internally.
Right.
But like,
so there's
all
a lot of like sensitivity stuff.
Yeah. You have to be super empathetic to be a
Right.
funeral director, right? But
Yeah,
they'll
it's
never
weird
say...
because these guys are making money.
That's
off
exactly what he
your-
said. He was like, we will never say, I'm sorry for your loss, because a little part of them is actually quite happy. It's their job. Like, that's what they get to do. Like, it was
fascinating.
it was so fascinating. So
Wow.
interesting. And, asking him, like, what do you wish that people, knew, or, did, or talked about? And he's like, just talk about it. Just put aside a little bit of money. A funeral can be $3,000-$4,000 at the very bare minimum. If you put aside like $1 a month for, 30 years, you'll be more than set. You can get this shit handled. $1 a week, I should
you can
say.
do your own funeral for less than $3,000.
There
I mean, it might not be tasteful.
it's about like the body preservation stuff and all that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So there'd be like flat fees, generally speaking, for the actual funeral director or celebrant services and that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's paperwork to do, and then if you want them to be like visible, then you have to embalm them and all these kind of things. So
Weird question, but in all your research,
yeah.
would it be legal to bury a family member in the backyard if you haven't killed them?
If you haven't
Like
killed
they
them.
died of cancer.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You can't bury a live person in your backyard to murder them that way. Yeah, that is technically illegal.
Yeah.
I think,
And how?
yeah, I think you can.
You can bury a dog.
I think that you probably can't bury a person in an area which is not designated as permissible, because there's one of the things we was asking, like, what's the trends, what's the cool, what's everyone talking about in funerals these days, and does everyone want it to be fun, do they want it to be a party? And he had this really interesting take, which is that no, a funeral needs to hurt, it needs to be painful. That's the whole point of it.
Why?
Is that you are coming to terms with the loss, and that emotion is going to come out one way or another. So the best way to do it is to have a funeral and feel the loss, start the grief process, because otherwise, a month later, a year later, that guy who buried the emotions will like punch his wife, or lash out, or get drunk, or do something, because that emotion is sitting there. So when people say like, oh, I want to have a fun thing, I want to be at, a party or whatever, it's like, no, that's not what you should do. That doesn't mean you can't celebrate the life. And a lot of the way that they sort of frame it is, it's meeting someone and then saying goodbye, like getting to know someone and then farewelling them. So the idea being that you walk through their life, you learn about who they were, you learn about what they did and what people loved about them, and then in doing so you start to grieve and mourn them and say goodbye. And that's the way to celebrate it. That's the positive angle of it, but it shouldn't be like a party. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be.
So Gary doesn't like a he doesn't like a fun kind of funeral. He doesn't like a.
It's not going to be like
let's get drunk and talk about and celebrate their life. He wants.
Well, I think that's allowed.
He wants everyone to cry.
They don't even need to cry. They just need to. I think he has seen enough to know that if you pretend like it's not happening, or if you don't deal with the reality, if you're ignoring the reality, then that's problematic, right? I think getting drunk and crying probably often hand in hand, right? I don't think there's. I don't think he'd be like, don't have a drink. I think he would be quite okay with that. But the idea.
But I mean, those funerals that are like, those funerals.
Yeah,
I haven't been to many funerals. They've all been really fucking sad. But you see in movies, those funerals were like, we're not going to sit here and cry. We're going to celebrate. We're going to do drugs. You know. He doesn't like those. But what is he, with respect to Gary, like what is he really seeing beyond the funeral?
Well, because they would often do the reception and the wake and that sort of thing as well. And I mean, it depends on the way that they are.
Are they different days?
Say what?
Are the funeral and the wake, are they different days?
No, the wake would tend to be straight after the funeral.
Okay. But I mean, Gary's saying that you gotta grieve it because otherwise it will come out in some other form later. But I'm saying, like, how does he know that? Like after the wake's done, like.
I suppose that he's approaching that as a learned person in the field. So there would be academic and educational resources for within the funeral industry, and I'm sure there's been studies done in education provided to qualified professionals that give that kind of insight. But I think he'd also probably know intuitively as well, just based on the way people behave, that sometimes it's more problematic than others.
Yeah. Talking to you about this stuff now, first of all, I'm so excited to see this show. I reckon it's such a great premise and great title, man. What a great fucking title. Yeah. It's perfect. You couldn't have a better title than that.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see this show.
Yeah. So the timeline now is, like I said, scripts are finishing up on this weekend, coming on Sunday. I'm up in Auckland. I'll be getting on a plane. That's going to be weird. And going up to Auckland for the read-through over a couple of days, going through the scripts, final tweaks, and punch-up if anyone's, in the cast comes out with other lines or suggestions and that sort of stuff.
A punch-up if anyone comes up with any other lines.
Yeah.
You're very protective over your work, are you?
What do you mean?
I think... Well, I'm just making a joke. You said you're gonna go there for a punch up if anyone has any ideas about the script.
Yeah, as in like they'll read through the thing, and we're hiring
I was
comedians.
Making a joke about the punch up. I was taking the punch up part when you were referring to the script, punching up the script, and I took it to mean that you were going to punch up anyone that had anything to say about the script. Oh. You're going to physically punch them up.
Yeah, I missed that. I'm sorry.
It's a joke.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it didn't land for me.
It works better when I don't explain it.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Do
you want me to?
Nah.
Do you want to say it again, maybe?
Nah, it's I'll get the next one.
This round's on me.
Sorry, I interrupted you with.
Yeah, it's all good. I don't remember what I was saying anyway. Just schedule wise. Cool. So up for this read through, and then back Monday, and then I'll be in Christchurch for 4 more days, and then 5 more days, and then up next weekend, and we shoot. We start shooting on the Monday, and we
Are you going to be there on set every day?
yeah.
Cool.
It'll be a 15-day shoot, or 15-day shoot window, and 13 shoot days, I believe, is the plan.
For season 1?
Yeah, I mean, we've only been
6
funded for one
episodes?
season, 6 episodes.
6 eps?
Yeah, 15 to 20 minutes probably for each of them.
You do it in 13 days.
13 days. Yeah, it's quite tight, but we don't have
Seems
that much
intensive.
money, you know. So, yeah, that's very, like I said, less than 2 weeks we'll be rolling camera on this thing. It's crazy.
Dope. I'm so excited. Send
Yeah.
me lots of photos from behind the set.
Yeah, I will be taking lots of photos. I mean, one of the main reasons that I want to be up there, because technically I don't really need to be there. As in, it's not expected that a writer is on set necessarily. If you were on something like, I don't know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Community or whatever, then it's very normal for the writer to be there because, you know, they keep an eye over a script and come up with other jokes if thing isn't working. But for a show like ours, it may not have that responsibility. But I do want to be there because the 2 other women that I co-created the show with, Eve and Grace, are also starring in it. So when it comes to questions of, you know, what's happening in the global context here, what's the big picture, what should we be keeping an eye on narratively, they're probably going to be in the moment thinking about the scene that they're about to perform. So it will probably help to have someone there who's keeping an eye on the overall story.
Are you going to get a little cameo?
No, I don't
Come
think
on.
so. Nah.
You gotta squeeze in a cameo. You're a good actor.
That's the...
Okay, I was lying.
Sorry. You made me laugh enough that I actually had to mute my mic because I was coughing too much. Yes, thank you for the unrealistic compliment.
But you're not going to do a cameo? Come on. Like, even Stephen Merchant did a cameo in The Office. You gotta...
Yeah, but
you
he's
gotta be in the background somewhere.
Yeah, maybe I'll stand in the background somewhere. But yeah. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's so cool.
Kind of a quick turnaround, like from you just even 2 weeks ago you were saying you just finished casting, or even you're still casting.
We're still
now,
casting, yeah.
To you're filming in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Actors to learn their lines, to understand the character, and then shoot is like 2 weeks, basically, you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
that's pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very fast.
Yeah. The casting process has taken longer, I think, than they'd accounted for, and we also moved up our shoot by 5 weeks, so it has tightened a little bit, but it'll be all good.
Cool. And where is it going to be released?
Well, in New Zealand, it's on TVNZ On Demand. That may be end of this year, maybe start of next year. I don't know if it's determined yet. I think that will also rely a little bit on when we hand it to them, because if we got it to them in, say, October, then maybe they'd put it on air straight away. But if it was handed to them in December, then they might sit on it till the start of next year, because people don't really watch things over the holidays. And they have the right of first play. I mean, hopefully we can get it onto iView or SBS On Demand or something over there, but they wouldn't look at it until it's actually finished. We need to have the product to take around and shop, not just the concept. But I would really like it to be in Australia on one of those places, and I think it's not impossible that could occur.
What about a Netflix?
I think the episode length is probably a bit short.
How long's the episodes?
15 to 20 minutes, probably.
Seems standard, though, doesn't it?
Well, like a half-hour comedy is around 22 minutes normally, so it's a little bit
Do you
shorter
know? Do you know a show called Rusted On?
Yeah. Is that
Australian?
Yeah.
Australian show got picked up by Netflix. And one of my friends is on that.
Yeah.
And
One of my friends is on that as well, weirdly.
What's your friend's name?
Steph Everson Williams.
Not the same friend.
No.
But I mean, that was like a little. I imagine that your show is going to be kind of similar in style.
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. Never mind.
But yeah, it's possible. I feel like duration wise, they might not see the benefit in it. But maybe, like I said, maybe a Stan or maybe a iView or SBS might be interested. There's not going to be that much content coming down the pipes internationally for those kind of places, so they're probably going to be hungry for it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, so I imagine, faithful listeners, that I will not be available for the next few weeks, so I probably won't see you till August. But
so I have to do it solo.
Yeah, if you can work out how to upload a podcast, go for it.
Yeah, that is. I'll never be able to do that.
How about some science news?
Yeah.
Wow, really, really, really a flat level of interest there. Really underplayed the enthusiasm. How about our science news? Yeah.
This caught me off guard.
Play the jingle. It's that time. Time for science news. Okay. A little bit of a random topic this week. Not really connected to anything, but just something I found interesting. A bit of science news from the Journal of Medicine. 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit isn't the average anymore. Let me translate that for you. 37 degrees isn't the average anymore. Now, we're talking about body temperature. Nearly 150 years ago, a German physician analysed 1 million temperatures from 25,000 patients and concluded that the normal human body temperature was 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, i.e. 37 degrees Celsius. That standard's been published in numerous medical texts, helped generations of parents judge, whether a kid was properly sick or not. But at least 24 modern studies have concluded the number is too high. We are not as hot as everyone thought we were. The original analysis was published in 1869 by Karl Reinhold August Wunderlich, a delightfully German name. And they're claiming it's flawed. Researchers from Stanford University argued that it was correct at the time, but is no longer accurate because the human body has actually changed. So they're now saying that today the average human body temperature is 97.5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 36.4 degrees Celsius. So 0.6 of a degree cooler these days than 150 years ago. The potential reasons why are that people are taller, fatter, and live longer. And we don't really understand why all those things have happened, but temperature is linked to all of them. So the question is, which one's driving others? Is the temperature going down because people are taller, or because people are taller is that making the temperatures lower? It's sort of like an unknown aspect at the moment. But they basically went back through and analyzed 670,000 temperatures collected from 190,000 people over a span of 157 years. Some of them going back to like pension records of Civil War veterans and stuff. And basically, those earlier ones were higher than the ones taken this millennium. And the magnitude of the change is kind of huge. And the fact that the temperature has declined at the same rate in that period as well. So there was a few different methodologies used by the people that gathered the temperature over the hundreds of years, and they took that into account, whether it was taken like in the mouth or under the armpit or in the rectum.
Yes.
And the other thing is that they were potentially a lot sicker in the previous, like 150 years ago as well. So the other possibility is that there were things that they couldn't account for, like Wunderlich, this German Wunderlich, had was a doctor in the 1800s, and people were walking into the office that had tuberculosis, they had dysentery, bone infections, that kind of stuff, infectious diseases we've never seen. So it's possible that the samples that he was getting were from sick people that were already like walking around with more fevers. But yeah, even so, there was some data quality problems. But the current perspective is actually that the human body is getting cooler over time. And I just thought that was very interesting.
Hey, so why are people taller now?
Because they're eating better.
Is that it?
Yeah, they're eating better and they're not working in like hard labor. They're getting more calcium. We understand the human body better. We're preventing, childhood diseases that stunted growth. Yeah.
Do you not think it's because we have to reach now for things?
That might be it, actually. That could be the main one.
Like on supermarkets.
Yeah, they didn't have supermarkets back then. They just had regular markets. And everything was at hand level.
You know what the thing is, Nick? I feel like I don't know if it's like... When we started this podcast, I backed myself a lot. And now I don't back myself.
That's a sign of intelligence.
I think it's a sign that I don't... Well, maybe it is. Well, maybe it's a sign of maturity. Maybe not intelligence. But I don't think I can articulate myself as well as I actually think. And it's quite frustrating. Like recently, it's been quite frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine how that would be frustrating. I think that you are much better. I feel like this fucking mic stand is going to be the death of your good audio quality, because all it's done is giving you a fiddle toy that you now happily move around in all kinds of variable places.
No,
where previously it used to sort of just sit nicely on the table and you wouldn't touch it. Now it's like you can just swing it around. You can move the arm up and down. You can...
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's always close to my mouth.
And when you listen back to the audio, will I hear a whole bunch of...
No, that's why I got it, because you can't hear that.
Uh-huh.
I don't think you can. I've turned my thing off because of the echo. But I've actually damaged the table, so I'm going to hear about that from Emma in a second.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
If you've enjoyed this kind of thing, and I don't know what to tell you, there's not that much microphone arm stand content in our previous episodes, but hopefully you'll find something else that tickles your fancy. You can find it all in your podcast player of choice. Just Google Deep Thought, not Google, I suppose. Look it up in the app. It's on the Apple Podcast Store. Give us a rating there of 5 stars if you happen to be around. You can find more content and thoughts from us at facebook.com/Deep Thought. We're on Instagram, putting up chip chat and recommendation engines and that kind of other stuff in between pods. We're on Twitter, Michael's favorite new platform. Have you heard of it? And send your questions and comments to deepthought@gmail.com. We'd love to take a suggestion from the audience.
Yeah. I've got a good way to end this, by the way.
I know. I was going to say, you got a story for me, right?
No. Oh, no, I can't do that. I had to think about that. I feel like it embarrasses someone too much.
Okay. Can you tell me after the podcast?
I'll tell you after the podcast.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Sure.
That's the cruelest thing to do on an audio medium.
I know.
It's a really good story, though. Like, it's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear that story.
I don't know. It's too embarrassing to one person.
So embarrassing.
So I feel bad.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear it though. Just me personally, obviously not the listeners. But it's like going to be really good.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's really, really good. It's juicy, dude.
Oh, juicy story.
Can't wait.
I love a bit of goss, love a bit of juice. Ready for this story. Obviously, not for the podcast.
If you know me, and we're friends on Facebook or whatever, just text me and I'll tell you the story.
If he says, "Oh, I forget," the story's about you. The story is about you. If you message him and ask for the story, that was about you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's something that you did, and you need to go back through your life and you need to work out what it was.
Well, that's
because he's been telling everybody.
I texted you yesterday saying I got this fucking juicy story, and I do.
Great story. Can't wait to hear.
The thing is, I don't know. I think I have an idea of in my friends who listens to this podcast.
Uh-huh.
And I just don't know.
So it's a story about a friend. Okay, interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's a story about a friend.
Ooh, got some juicy
So
goss. Hey, if you're listening, is it about you? Why did he not tell this
already-
story? What did you do to Michael?
I already asked permission
Oh.
from the person, from another person who is involved.
Oh, there's
And
multiples.
And they said, yeah, go ahead, tell the story.
Oh.
But I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it. Maybe on the next one.
No. No, it's not a podcast story. This is just for me. This is something that I get to enjoy and everyone at home.
That sent a shiver up my spine when you said, no, this is just for me. And you made that fucking weird face. Anyway, I've got a nice way to end this. I got a nice way to end the pod.
Perfect.
With a question.
Oh.
I was thinking, can you remember the time? Can you remember a time, maybe in your childhood, maybe in your adolescence? I don't know how old you are. Where you've laughed the hardest, or a time that you laughed so much that you couldn't breathe or something.
Yeah. There's been a couple. There's definitely
give us one story.
Yeah, I mean, individually they're not going to be super funny because the reality of those moments, right, is it's situational. Like you can't tell those things on.
Who cares? It doesn't matter.
No, but my point is like, it's not even, there's not really enough to tell. But like writing this show, right, we'd often be doing it over Skype, and then one of the others would come up with a line that just gets you from nowhere, and you just can't stop laughing because it's ridiculous. And that's the most fun part of creating, right? Is like doing something with friends and trying to make each other laugh. That's awesome.
Is that your fucking story?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's my point.
Well, don't choose that one then. Choose us one that we can. You just said that some like behind the.
That's why I
had this line.
That's what I said at the top, that it wasn't going to be.
Then choose the other one.
No, but they're all like that. Like, how are you meant to give what you want? Like the actual thing that was said. Is that the?
Yeah, like a situation. Like, yeah, maybe you've ruined this for me. I thought this was going to be great. You fucking ruined it.
Well, you tell me one. What set the standard?
I've got
I don't
one.
know what you're expecting here. None of these situations are going to be funny to anyone.
Well, now it's going to seem like that I just made up this segment to tell my story because
we know that was the case.
That's not the case. Well, I thought of the question, then I thought of this. Well, I would say,
okay,
fuck. It's not going to be funny now because
now it has to be. This is the whole point.
Now we're fighting.
We're not fighting.
It's weird. Now the tone's weird.
We're not fighting.
Now the tone's weird. Now we need to like ease back into like a fun vibe. Okay.
I'm sorry that you fucked up explaining this segment.
I didn't. Fucking hell. Okay. Well, I was gonna. Well, I didn't. By the way, I didn't make up this segment. Not a segment. I didn't ask this question just so I could tell my story.
Okay.
So let to be known. Okay.
I believe you. This was a noble endeavor. This was a equal opportunity segment.
All right.
Awkward silence. We did it.
We did it.